Hello. All right, everybody, we're live. Welcome. I wanted to take some time today. I'm procrastinating a little bit before I start my affidavit. So I just wanted to share my thoughts about where I am in the process, how things got here, what I think is going to happen, and what my strategy is. So first of all, I think this process is an inefficient one. I think the system is fundamentally broken. I think it's it's worse than random. You can get 3 random people and have them come to a decision, and it'll be better than the system that we have right now, and it'll be more efficient for everybody. So it's just an awful system. My heart goes out to all of you people going through it. It's terrible, and it's intentionally terrible, and there's no excuse, right? In this world where we have apps that come and replace other apps within months, right? TikTok took over YouTube within not a long period of time, right? So this idea that we have this relic of a system that continues to be insisted upon, despite all evidence really showing that it's a terrible system and that if you follow me through this, you'll see all how inefficient it is, and really what a waste of time this whole thing is. So that's the first thing I would like to say. This system really is broken, and it's broken for everybody. Some people are lucky. They're minimally affected by this, and others are unlucky and they're dragged through this for years, right? And it just depends on the character of the parties you're dealing with, right? Sometimes you have people with some who have some mental health issues, and they will make things as difficult as possible, right? And that's just the reality and the way the system works, because it's so pedantic and it's so absurdly foreign to the common vernacular, right? Because of this, it drags on and it makes things even more difficult. I mean, it's just incredible to get a simple decision on anything if you accept that their authority, which I do not, and we'll get into that too at some point. But so back to my story. How did I end up in this situation for years, right? And a large part of that is because the system is so broken that I was overwhelmed and I didn't know what to do, and I basically froze. I basically froze like a deer in headlights. I couldn't deal with this shit. I had to really I couldn't manage this legal stuff and dealing with these just unscrupulous lawyers and this legal system where, there's no correlation between the objective reality and the, random decisions made by judges. Quote, they're not even judges. But, we'll get into that. So, I was incapable of, one, finding a good lawyer. Two, I didn't have sufficient funds to do this shit. And three, I was dealing with a difficult tug of war with the children. And, at many points I thought, okay, if I just suffer with her, maybe it's better than going through this legal process. And so, it was difficult trying to, make something work while at the same time having this sword of Damocles hanging over your head all the time, right? And that meaning the family law system, because again, it was so absurd. Like trying to understand what they're saying now. Finally, 9 years into this process, I understand what these acts and what these statutes and what these definitions mean, where to look for them, how to define them, the importance of words. I finally understand the quote unquote game, right? But for 9 years, I didn't. I just didn't understand the game. I'm like, what the fuck is going on, right? And again, I'm an accomplished person. It's not that I'm incapable of understanding things, right? But I don't know why. It's just I had this uncertainty that I was doing things in the right way, and you have this, this idea that you must, maybe it's taught in school that like everything must be done properly, right? All your I's are signed and your T's are crossed, and all this stuff, right? So you put all this effort and and you think, oh, this process, it's really thorough and it's really, pedantic, and like, oh, the more research you do, never ends. And I went along with the system because I kind of went along. I didn't understand what was going on, and I just, for a long time, I just didn't want to deal with it, right? So I did the minimum possible to just like leave these people, get these people off my back. And I was trying to be reasonable, right? I had no reason to not be reasonable. But the other party decided to be as difficult as possible, denying me all kinds of access, entrap me with the police, like just crazy things, right? And so it was difficult to deal with. Plus, trying to maintain a good relationship with the kids, who I'm being alienated from in front of my eyes, right? Like I'm seeing the deterioration in the relationship as the mother makes things more and more difficult for me to spend any kind of quality time with them. Right? So I just for a long time didn't want to deal with it, deer in the headlights. I tried to get a good lawyer who understood complex family law, right? And just a terrible experience as well. He was unscrupulous, and these words that I had to learn. And they didn't care, right? No, they just want to keep you in this process as long as possible. Didn't care. you know, oh yeah, we'll start immediately. Well, within 2 months we'll be in front of a judge and we'll be amending this and doing that and make sure whatever you need to do, minimal input from me because like I'm paying you, just do your fucking job, right? Nope, they just drag things on and make things difficult and charge the maximum possible that they can get away with, right? So you're fighting with your lawyer and you're fighting with the whole system. Anyways, that's how I felt. And then finally, right, with the start of this COVID nonsense, right? I remember the skating rink at the park had 20 people maximum or something like that. They just made up this fucking rule, right? And I had to wear a mask. I'm like, where do you guys get this power to do this? This is public property. You can't fucking. And they said, oh, we're gonna call the police over. I'm like, okay, call the police over. And the police comes, oh, you have to wear a mask. I'm like, what do you mean I have to wear a mask? What, you think because somebody writes something on a piece of paper that you can enforce it on me? He goes, oh, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna look into this, right? So I started going down this legal rabbit hole to understand like where this should, where all this is coming from. And there's so much great material out there, and I wish I wish I had the capacity to look for it, when I started this process. But thank God it's now accessible. And so you understand that it's just a game, right? It's just theater, and these are just actors, or they're just, Mickey Mouse, or as Alphonse says, or like the equivalent of Tim Hortons, right? Because they're just a corporation, they're just a legal fiction. So once you understand that, and once you understand, well, there's no real power behind it, right? It's really, what's a good analogy? The Wizard of Oz, right? Like he appears powerful, but in reality, it's just some legal fiction playing some games, right? And we'll get into like what I think is going on, because it's been really difficult to try to understand it. But my point is, I didn't want to go through this, right? It was the last thing that I wanted to do, and it wasn't so much that I objected the government's intervention into my personal life, because I didn't fully comprehend what that was at the time. It was just the process seemed so difficult, and you're like, why? What am I doing? What have I done wrong? I've done nothing wrong. I've tried to do everything possible, by the book, like I'm supposed to do, right? And then when you just get punished for this, right? And you go in front of judges, and you feel like you're being tried for murder, and you're thinking like, how the fuck does this, legal fiction have such authority, right? I mean, I didn't realize it consciously at the time. You just come out and you're like, what the heck happened? Like, how is it possible? And you're trying to get answers, right? And of course, if you talk to the liars, this judge sometimes, and it's just a game, right? For them, it's just a stupid fucking game. But for me, I thought it was real, right? I thought that, this is a serious process, and, I mean, follow the rules, right? Anyways, I didn't take it seriously, and that was a big part of it. And then when I realized what the game was, right, and how this is just an administrative court, right? It's no different from the traffic courts. The traffic court is enforcing the Highway Traffic Act, and the family court is enforcing the Family Law Act, right, or whatever it's called. And so when you realize that, you're like, what? So I'm not here because I've done any harm, right? I'm not here because I've done something criminal, right? I'm not being accused of anything criminal, right? I'm here because somebody thinks that I need to be administered, or my person needs to be administered by the Family Law Act. And you're like, what? How does that make sense? So these people think that they can just drag me into their court. And it's not even a real court, right? It's an administrative process. So they think that they can drag me into a court, into a real court, and say you need to be administered by, policy 1, policy 2, policy 3, based on the Family Law Act. And it's like, yeah, so it was kind of a shock to understand what kind of system I was in, right? And how these people really dragged my, just stole my energy for 9 years, right? I just had this, imagine the worst thing that you can do, right? And for me at the time, it was going to this fucking court. And they had this power over me to bring me there whenever they wanted, And I just had this negative energy over me. And I was actually diagnosed with, I went to the hospital, and they diagnosed me with depressive anxiety disorder or something like that. And I thought, whatever, I'm going through this stupid separation, right? Like it can't be hard to talk to this guy, and it wasn't. And I talked to him, and he said, "Oh yes, you're absolutely depressed." And I'm like, really? I don't feel it. But now looking back, oh, for sure I was. I mean, God bless that guy. And and I know that I was then, and I'm not now, because now I'm able to do this stuff, right? I'm able to talk about it. I'm able to read it, because before I didn't even want to read it. It was something that I didn't want to deal with. And now I still don't want to deal with it, but for other reasons, right? And now the reasons that I don't want to deal with it are that it is unjust, that it is unlawful, it's a color of law scam, and it's tyrannical, like who in their right mind would give up your rights and powers over all your property, right? Like these people at a whim can say, oh, well, based on my, magic ball, I think that 90% should go to this person and 10%. It's like, in what world are we accepting that we can give our property, our the right to administer our property to these random fucking people? In what world, guys? But that's what it felt like, right? You're there and you're like, oh, if the judge or if the Madame Justice or whatever decides that my case is good, that I had a good case, right? Then I can have a good living, right? If the Madame Justice, hates me and wants to punish me, well, then I'm living in the poorhouse, right? Like this one entity, this legal fiction, has the power to determine the security of your person. And I don't see how that's possible. They're an administrative court, guys. Imagine the traffic court saying, well, I need to go see your last 10, financial statements because, I need to determine if the license for your car is. This is the world that we're living in. These administrators believe they have this power. And I'm not allowing it anymore. There's no fucking way. I'm not giving up my rights to administer my property to some fucking random person. No, thank you. So my thoughts at this stage, right? I don't want to go on forever. But my thoughts at this stage are that I am in a position that I don't want to be in, right? Maybe there are people out there who are fine with this system, right? Who volunteer, who, the system works perfectly for them. They go through it, they spend a lot of money, they have a lot of money to spend. At the end, they come to an agreement, both parties are okay with. Great, right? If you're one of those people and the family law court system works for you, great. Use it to your heart's content, okay? It doesn't work for me, okay? And I don't need to fucking use it. It doesn't work for me, okay? I'm 9 years into this. I have no idea when it's going to fucking end. These people have the right to administer my property. They created a schedule for me to see my daughter, and the other party doesn't follow it. And is there recourse? No. They don't fucking care. And I thought it was real. I thought they had the power to enforce. I thought, and then what do? When I realized it was all fucking bullshit, I send a notice of rescission. And I say, please stop including me in this fucking game, right? Where I'm the respondent and she's the blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't want to be part of your fucking game, guys. And of course, what do? They ignore me. You must be part of our fucking game. You must be the respondent. Give me a fucking break. So, what do I think is going to happen? What I think is going to happen is they're going to try to screw me. Of course they will, right? And I'll just document everything, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to do everything possible to end this because, man, they took away so much energy from me, so much vitality from me, really. It was this drain on my life. And then I realized that it was all fiction. It's all fucking fiction. But what are the positives? Well, the positives, guys, are that you realize that this gets very biblical. And the laws of the land are built on the Bible. And the legal system that we have are the laws of man. And the Bible talks about the laws of man and what happens when you live according to the laws of man and not according to the laws of God. Well, we have this judicial system, quote unquote, which is completely the laws of man. Completely. Nothing about it is natural, and it has to fail. That which is not true must fail. And so I'll probably get screwed, but whatever. I will persist. God says, trust in him. I shall trust in him. And I'll keep fighting. And I'll keep recording. I couldn't even read this stuff before, and now I can read it in front of all of you. It's in many ways this process was a miracle. It allowed me to face the things that I didn't want to face, and I'm much stronger for it. And I feel now that I have gone through more bullshit than they have. And I want this to be voluntary. I'm not your chattel. I don't allow you to create a debt in my name. I don't allow you to assign me as a payee to some bill of exchange. I don't allow any of this stuff. Leave me the fuck alone. And if not, then give me an alternative. You want me to leave your quote unquote jurisdiction? Then fine. So these are my thoughts. I will go down with a fight. And I'll share with you guys the results. So next I will write out my affidavit. I'll start with a draft. Maybe I'll get some water. And I will be back. So thank you guys for listening. I appreciate your support. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. God bless.